All right, I'm back.
Bon après-midi à tous et bienvenue à cette rencontre du Comité de dérogation pour la Ville d'Ottawa. Welcome everyone to this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Ottawa. We are a quasi-judicial tribunal that holds public hearings to hear certain applications under the Planning Act. Most common ones that you know of are, of course, the minor variances and the consents to severs. So we're back for 2 years now in person. But if anybody ever wants to participate online, please feel welcome to do so. You just need to speak with our committee staff in order to ensure that you have the proper links. So my name is Anne Tremblay, and I'll be chairing today's hearing. With me are my fellow panel members. We have Member Decailly on my right, and we have our guest panel member for panel one, Member Barrett. We have online Member Blatherwick and also Member Keklikan. So in terms of the procedures, so you saw the agenda. Some of you saw the screen. That order is really very much just in the order that the applications come in. So as chair, I have a discretion to move that around, and we'll be doing that today. Also, you should know, sometimes it looks like we're approving applications very quickly. We have now a new process, a fast track process. I can assure you that the committee has had a chance to look at all of the evidence that's been provided and on file. So we do an in-depth review of all that information, and even have a pre-meet to make sure that we haven't missed anything. So when we approve those applications, it's not because we haven't missed anything. We understand exactly what's going on, and can fast track some particular applications where there's no controversy, where there's no one who's opposing the application, and it's, as I said, fairly straightforward. So also, we'll be hearing oral submissions from anyone who's interested to speak either against or even in favor of an application if you want to do that. So that's always welcome. So as part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant is required to post a sign on the property in question before the hearing, and then to confirm in writing. And we've got all of the copies of the statutory declaration, so there's no issue there for anyone. So how do we proceed? So what we do is we'll call the application down. We'll ask the agent to come forward and wait for it, because that's not in all cases. On the fast track, we don't ask that. And then what we try to do is get a presentation from the applicant, agent, owner, whomever. Then we get a chance to ask questions for clarification. We may ask planning staff or forestry staff for clarification on things. And then we open up the public portion of the hearing, where we hear from anybody who's on a list, a speaker's list, who I have no one on the list today. But we start with that and then open it up to anybody else who might want to address the panel. So after all of that is done, we then have a chance to finish up discussions on anything that it may be outstanding, and then the agent, applicant, owner has a chance to rebut or recap in the last 2 minutes. So that's how we proceed. Because I don't have anybody on my speakers list today, if you do want to speak, you're quite welcome, but I'm going to ask you to start with your first and last name and your municipal address, if you could. And that goes for the people who are also online. All right, so, so what happens after we've heard everything, then you essentially can expect within 10 days, an official written decision by the committee and the reasons for that decision, and that can be provided to all parties, participant, and anyone who has an interest and has requested a copy of the decision. So with that, then I'm going to go to just short time frame for matters of business. So any declarations of conflict of interest from any of our panel members here today, either for the agenda that we will deal with or the agendas of panel 2 or 3. Anyone?
No.
All right, so hearing none, for the record, there's no declarations of conflict of interest. We also have some minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. The panel members have had a chance to review. I'm going to start with February 5th. Any comments, or we can just consider those adopted? All right. How about February 19th? Anyone? No? All right, so we've considered and adopted then those minutes. Perfect. Okay, let's go to the agenda now. We've got a withdrawal application. Just for the record, the agent is not here, but I'd like to just make sure that we get it on record. So for number 7, for 166 Mcgillivray, the application has been officially withdrawn, so we don't need to hear that. And if you're here for that item, it's essentially gone. Okay, so they would have to reapply and there'd be a recirculation and all of those processing requirements. After that, we do have an adjournment request for item 4, which is 196 Clare. And I understand the agent is not with us today, or either in person or online. I'm just checking to make sure that's still the case. And in that case, we are adjourning the application sine die. I'm going to give an opportunity to any of the panel members to ask any questions about that at this point. No one, any questions on that? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience or anyone online who wants to speak to the adjournment sine die? Good afternoon, Mr. Gray.
How are you today on this lovely day?
Exactly. How could you be anything but great?
It's Tim Gray with the Westboro Community Association. We're okay with the adjournment. There's a question that we have when we met about this last night, and it's about the site triangle, and it's in condition 7 of the planning report. What our worry is that they will need a variance later on because we think there is a obstruction in the site triangle. But we're not sure because the city has asked for this 3 meter by 9 meter site triangle now, not the normal 6 by 6. So we're okay with the 3 by 9. Sorry. We just need some clarification from the city. We can get
All right,
that.
so we're not going to do that today because
Okay.
that's a matter that's actually about the application. But I just want to make sure that that Ms. Horn, you've taken note that when you will see likely this application come back, please make sure that we address that, knowing that the community association will want some explanation about it or modify it as seen fit. So I think that's the best way to
Yeah,
proceed.
no, that's all we wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay,
Okay, thank you
thanks a
very
lot.
much, Mr. Gray. Thank you. Anyone else here today want to speak to the adjournment sine die? I'm not seeing anybody, so I'm going to go to a vote. Members of the panel, all those in favor? All right, so for the record, it's unanimous. We are adjourning this application sine die, and we will see it again at some point in the future. I'd like to call down now, if possible, Mr. Agent Tahiti. Is that individual here? Could you come on down, please? Good afternoon. So who is Mr. Tahiti? Aha. And who is with you today, Mr. Tahiti? Sorry, I'm going to need you to turn on a microphone. I need your full name. You can tell me who you are and give me a municipal
Yeah.
address too, please.
Yeah, this is Joseph Vahidi. I am builder with the West Gate Development as well as the Zagros Group. So I'm here, eventually I'm going to work with Mr. Tawhidi and the family to develop the project. And my address, do you need my civic address? Yeah, my address is 432 Lochaber, Lochaber, Lochaber Avenue, Ottawa, Ontario, K2A086.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, the reason we've called you down is when the committee looked over the planning evidence, we did see the planning evidence that you provided on the minor variances. What we didn't see was any planning evidence on the consent, the reason for the consent, and why you were essentially moving forward with that. So, and the other thing we did note is we were going to ask you for a full presentation today as well. And I understand that you did not submit a PowerPoint presentation for the committee's consideration. Mr. Tahiti?
I didn't know that I should, I didn't know that I should, send a presentation. I had a cover letter that is submitted with the application. I thought that was enough.
Sometimes it is. But when we have an application like this, where there's a number of things going on, we like to see the planning evidence, not just for the minor variance, but also for the consent side of things. And the best way to do that for us is always a visual to bring forward. So it's not a requirement, but I'm just suggesting to you that for the committee's benefit, it actually is very helpful to have that visual evidence for us, that planning evidence. So all this to say, I'm wondering, I called you down because I'm hoping we can maybe get some of that information and adjourn you just for 2 weeks to April 2nd. Would that work for you, gentlemen? Yes, adjourning it for 2 weeks because the committee does not feel that it has the evidence it requires to consider your consent application.
Sorry, microphone, please. Just press the button.
Sorry, by consent, you mean I should sign some forms? I believe I have signed everything.
No, it's the planning evidence in support of that consent application. So you need to provide a rationale to us to say, here's why we need the consent application. You've been able to provide us with that planning evidence for the minor variances, but we didn't see it in our package for the consent application. So we talk a lot, I've got your letter here, and you talk a lot about the minor variances and how everything conforms to that. But we don't see anything on file for you that's the planning evidence for the consent application. So we would prefer to receive that before we hear your application.
I believe the plan is submitted and the elevations, it's showing all the variances, it's all submitted with the application.
Okay, so under the Planning Act, there's criteria for the creation. So it says a consent application, and I haven't read it and, I can't, so don't quote me on any of this, but essentially consent application is, and member Blatherwick would be able to help me out here, I'm sure, is subject to the following criteria. So what we would want to see is a little bit of planning evidence that says, yeah, we meet these requirements under the Planning Act in order to have your consent application considered. You've done the right thing under the minor variances, but you haven't provided the same kind of evidence for your consent. So that's what we're asking you to do and we will want a presentation from you in 2 weeks. We'd like a PowerPoint presentation and additional evidence, planning evidence regarding the consent.
I'm not a professional person. I'm just owner. Who can help me, tell me what information I need to provide later?
All right, so I'm looking at, Member Blatherwick, you go ahead. Sorry, you're on mute.
So what we need to see from you as part of your submission is the articulation of section 5124 of the Planning Act, which are the consent criteria. If you need to meet those criteria to prove to us that you don't need to file a plan of subdivision for your property. So I'd look up section 5124, and you'll see that the specific requirements are right there, and all you do is is tell us whether or not each of those criteria, in your opinion, has been met, and therefore you will not need a plan of subdivision to divide your property. Thank you.
So back to the adjournment request.
That's
Like
okay.
we're requesting, I understand you're not, we're requesting to April 2nd to give you a chance to come back before us with the information that we need, including a PowerPoint presentation, because we will be asking you for a presentation on this.
Okay, that's okay.
Thank you.
April,
All right,
okay.
so we do need to vote on this. So is there anyone in the audience, either here or online, who would like to speak to a request for adjournment at this point to April 2nd for this application? All right, I'm not seeing anyone. So with that, then, members of the panel, we need to vote. So we're adjourning application number 1 for 60 Hampton to April 2nd. All in favor? All right, so for the record, the application is adjourned for the next 2 weeks. So thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen, and we look forward to seeing you back in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
All right,
you.
bye now. Okay, so that takes us, now that we've dealt with the adjournments, it takes us to, hang on, I've got to get my what we consider to be the unopposed applications, and the criteria for that. And just so everybody's clear, is that there's no objections or concerns by any of the parties, no modifications required, no registered speakers. The stat deck has been submitted, and that the agents have confirmed that they agree with all the conditions, and that there's no questions from the panelists on this because we already have the information that we need. So that's the criteria for these applications. I'm going to read them in order. I don't need to see the agents come down for this. I don't need, so we'll deal with them one by one, but as a package. So for number, sorry, I'm not sure, I'm not quite done. So, so going through, there's 3 applications. Number 2, 884 Charleswood. The second one is application number 3 for 478 Lawson. And then the last application is number 8 for 249 Shakespeare. So we have reviewed all of the material for this. I'm going to do a call out to, is there anyone who would have a concern or wants to address the committee, either for or against, on any one of those applications? If I don't see anybody, we're going to go to a vote. Okay, so members of the panel on 884 Charleswood, all in favor? The application is granted unanimously. On 478 Lawson, all in favor? The application is granted unanimously. On 249 Shakespeare, all in favor? Again, application is granted unanimously. Perfect. So that takes us essentially to the last 2 applications, which are for 464 Churchill and 462 Churchill. I believe I'm looking for Mr. Hugh. Good afternoon, and if you could just tell me who your guest is today.
This is Mr. Plugman, who represents the ownership group.
All right, thank you so much. We, I think we decided we don't need a presentation on this, so I'm just going to open it up to questions by the panel members. So let's start then with sorry, just let me get back here. So 464 Churchill. Anything on that one? So 464 Churchill is the minor variance application, I believe. Before I'm dead wrong on that, let me just check it again, be sure. Yeah, so it's a minor variance application for those. Members of the panel, any questions for our speakers? I understand the notice is correct. The version we had, by the way, said
Yes.
lot area. So that's
Yeah.
been corrected. So we don't need to do that. Not seeing any questions from any of the panel members on 464 for the minor variance. Going to then 462 Churchill on the, and again, confirming here, this would be the consent application. Any questions from the panel members on any of this? Yes,
Aye.
Member Blatherwick, go ahead, please.
Gentlemen, could you, for the committee's information, please articulate the section 5124, the consent criteria and how it's met to ensure us that you don't need a plan of subdivision for this?
Right. So, Mr. Member Blatherwick, we provided an analysis of subsection 24 to the committee. I don't have it in front of me, but in broad measures, the intensification provided meets the criteria outlined in section 2 of the Planning Act, which is the criteria of provincial interest, in that it allows for intensification within a settlement area. The other criteria relate to the provision of timely infrastructure. There's infrastructure in Churchill Avenue, both water, both sanitary, storm, and water. So the provision of appropriate infrastructure is in the street. So we believe it meets the tests provided in subsection 24 of section 51 of the Planning Act.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hume. And in your opinion, your application meets the provisions of section 56(1) of the zoning bylaw, which is the adequate urban, suburban, and rural services?
Yes, it
Sewer,
does.
water, and stormwater?
Yes, it does, Mr. or Member Blatherwick. We've provided a grading, drainage, and servicing plan to the city in support of the application. And we believe that upon review by the city, will achieve or will be accepted and provide the basis for for the servicing of the site. And I would also note that this is with the exception of the minor variance of 3 centimeters, all other provisions of the zoning bylaw are this application conforms to all other sections of the zoning bylaw. So for all intents and purposes, really, it's a zoning compliant application. And it does meet the intent of the official plan in that it is on a minor corridor within the inner urban transect, which is the place where intensification is designed to occur. And I would note that both city staff on both the minor variance and the compliance to section 51 have agreed that the application does comply.
So thank you, Mr. Hume. So I'm assuming that at the building permit stage, you will have confirmation from the city that your site will be adequately serviced by water, sewage, and drainage systems.
I think, Mr. Member Blatherwick, it will have to be before we get to building permit stages, because the condition that I'm assuming that the committee will impose will be the provision of a grading and drainage plan satisfactory to the planning department, along with a servicing plan that demonstrates, and I'm recalling from memory, but I think it's individual services, each lot having individual services, and a grading and drainage and servicing plan to the satisfaction of the planning department. So we'll have to, and we have actually provided that already to the planning department. And we would then resubmit that to support the building permit application.
But it's the planning department that's going to have to determine whether or not there's adequate capacity.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Madam Chairman.
Not,
Any other questions?
you're not hiring an engineer to do that.
All right, Member Blatherwick, any follow on?
Nope, that's fine.
All right, Member.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hume.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes, through you, Ms. Chair, to the agent. Do you accept the conditions on the report?
We do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I do. I have a question. I just want to get this on the record because our report indicates that there are some concerns with regards from forestry. So who's with us today from forestry? Who have we got? Ms. Young. Good afternoon, Ms. Young.
Good afternoon.
So our report suggests right in the first paragraph that there's in fact had been some issue with regards to 2 jointly owned trees that the applicant doesn't have permission to take down. Okay, so we understand from our pre-meet today that that's been resolved. I just want to hear from forestry then, and just confirmation from the agent that's correct. It's been
That's correct.
resolved.
We have reached an agreement with the property owner, the adjacent property owner. We've provided that agreement to the committee and to the city in satisfaction of the condition that we believe you will impose.
Well, that's where I was going to next, because now that we have it,
Yes.
I'm wondering, Ms. Young, do we even need condition number 6 then, in your opinion? I don't want to impose a condition if we already have the information we need.
From my notes, I don't have a condition about that agreement. I just have a tree planting condition.
Number 6. Number 6, Ms. Young, on that, it says the owner will provide a signed letter of permission from the owner about the identified adjacent or boundary trees.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's not in my notes, so I'm okay with removing it and just leaving it as the tree planting condition.
Perfect, Ms. Horn.
Because we did receive that, so we're okay.
Yes, I'm in agreement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Perfect. I take it you're in agreement as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So with that, then we are deleting condition number 6, renumbering the conditions appropriately 6 and 7, so that we know we only have 7 conditions. That was it for my questions. One last time before I go to the public on this. All right. No one in my speakers list. Is there anyone? And there's nobody left in the in-person here. Oh, yes, we do. Sorry, Mr. Gray. I did not see you back there. You're hiding in the shadows. So come on over. Come on down.
Only because you're moving along so quickly, I just wanted to make a comment that, this is the kind of project that we really like to see. Mr. Hume says it's compliant, and it is. It's got a tiny minor variance. And the other thing I wanted to say is that the community association has been working with the neighbor for a long time, for months. And really it was Miss Young that really kind of got things going to help us and the neighbor understand, what could be done about the, shared trees. And they came up with I think a good plan that both sides are super happy with. And we just wish that would have been done months ago and their project could have moved along earlier, but it's all good.
Well, Mr. Gregg, we truly appreciate the positive comments and the recognition of staff's help on things. So thank you so much.
Forestry is really a good advocate for the community, and they always are there, to answer our questions and work with us. So I just wanted to give a shout out because we had a little extra time here today.
It's perfect and always welcome. So thank you again. All right. So anyone else before we close the public portion? All right. I'm not seeing anybody else. Mr. Hume, would you like any final words?
No, Madam Chair, we're happy if the committee would approve both the variance and the consent.
All right, so let's get to that then. On application 462, Churchill, for the minor variances, all those in favor? Okay, so the application is unanimously granted. And on 462, Churchill, for the consent, again, I'm always just making sure I'm doing this right. On the consent, all those in favor? All right, again, it's unanimous. The application is approved. So
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen, and good luck with your project.
Thank you to the committee.
All right, thanks. Now that is the end of the agenda, so I'm going to deem we're adjourned unless anybody wants to continue to talk. I think we're good. In that case, thank you to our planning and forestry and of course our committee staff as always for your time. And we're done. Thanks so much.